Well, hello everyone. It's good to be here for another DC Capstone Report. It's great to be here today, listening. For all our listeners out there to be tuning in, we appreciate it. Today on the podcast, it's the podcast that we're going to review in a first segment the last game against the Auburn Tigers. In the second segment, we're going to take a look at our standout players from that game against Auburn, both on offense and defense. In our third and final segment, we're going to look at the upcoming game for the SEC Championship against the Georgia Bulldogs. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on Tide 102.9, The Morning Blitz with Martin Houston. You can listen live at Tide1029.com. Well, it's great to be back on another podcast, Lance. I know we had a good time this past weekend here at the Capstone. With the Auburn Tigers coming to town for that heated rivalry game. I think Alabama and Auburn always puts on a good show when they play, and I think it was another great game. Alabama came in, and it looks like to me they did exactly what they wanted to do in this game. Auburn came in and did exactly what they planned on doing in the game, but Alabama was just too much for the Auburn Tigers. You know, we talked about last week about looking for Auburn to come in and having nothing to lose and maybe running the trick plays and trying to get some turnovers. And that's exactly what happened in this game. Auburn came in running some different formations, using eye candy, movement all along the front, trying to confuse the defense. And they ran some trick plays, throwbacks from the halfback pass, throwing back to the tight end. And Alabama didn't cover those. The times they scored touchdowns on those were kind of breakdowns. Also, they gashed us on the run on some of that movement that got that first touchdown scoring drive. But overall, our defense, I think, settled down in the second half, played a really good game, did a really good job. But for the miscue on the punt block, I think our special teams did well. And I think that punt block is something that Auburn just sold out to try the win. You know, they pulled out all stops here, running halfback plays, selling out on the block punts, running fake field goals, anything they could do. I think Auburn knew coming in they couldn't stand up man-to-man and beat Alabama because Alabama was a better team. So as we talked about last week on our podcast, look for Auburn to show some movement, and they did. Look for Auburn to try to distract, they did, and look for them to do some trick plays, and they did. However, all that was only successful to a point for those particular plays and did not help them win the ball game. On the other side, I think Alabama's game plan coming into this, and I know a lot of the fans out there didn't understand this or how it was, but all week I've been hearing out of the Capstone, out of the football complex, an idea that Alabama wanted to maintain serve in the first half, not get caught off guard by the trick plays or by the things that were going on to try to distract them. Try to maintain serve in the first half and make as little mistakes as possible, and not let Auburn have an opportunity to stay in the game. And then in the second half, make some adjustments, show some things that they didn't show in the first half, and try to take advantage of Auburn in the second half. That's exactly what they did. One of the things that most of our listeners out there may not be aware of, that over the course of this whole entire season, Auburn has had a really tough time adjusting at halftime and making any changes. And so they've been a first-half team most of the year and not been a very good second-half team. And I think Alabama, in their game planning and their scheming this leading up to this Auburn game, they used that to their advantage and decided they were going to try to maintain serve in the first half, try to be as conservative as possible, run the ball, take some of the clock off, get to the second half, and then open up the offensive playbook, showing Auburn some things they haven't seen, making some deep passes downfield, and do a good job of blowing them out in the second half, which they did. Now, some people have told me, so why would you do that? Why would you change the way you play? I think Coach Saban saw a way to take advantage of Auburn in the second half, take advantage of their lack of being able to adjust, and thought that would be the way to win this game. Also, running the ball early takes time off the clock to limit them on their opportunities for trick plays and other things. I do think it was a little bit to our disadvantage in the first part of the game, simply because I think Tua, when he was throwing the ball, was a little bit off on his passes, but I think that's because they've tried to tell him to be as conservative as possible. In the second half, when he was able to loosen up and make those throws that he likes to make, he threw some touchdown passes that were right on the money, And then he threw some that were up there, like the one to Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs did a great job of getting that ball in, but I don't think he throws that pass in the first half because it's a 50-50 ball with a chance of either our guy taking it for a touchdown or their guy intercepting it. But I think they were trying to play conservative first half. I think it showed in the way he played, but he came on in the second half and played probably the best quarterbacking of any Alabama quarterback in an Alabama Auburn game. So I think overall our offensive game plan for this game was very good. On the defensive side of the ball, I think we came out and we scored. We didn't expect them to score. I don't think as fast as they did, but I believe in this game holding them to 21 points was a victory. That's one point. One of those touchdowns came off of a turnover. The other one came off of a trick play. In the second half, we made some good adjustments on defense that limited their opportunities, limited their big play capabilities, and snuffed out that fake field goal and stopped them on fourth down. So, I think our defense made some great adjustments at halftime. We had some individual effort that was great, key in this game. At the end of the first half, when it was so close, still Alabama had limited Auburn to 129 yards in the first half, divided that up between rushing and passing yards. They were not doing a lot to take advantage of our defense, but for that trick play, I don't see them being doing that well in the on offense in the first half. I think our defense really did good, but for that trick play and that one long drive, they did really good to limit it in the first half. Half ended at 17-14. Then Alabama in the second half makes adjustments on offense, blows them out in the second half, 35-7, outscores them. Our defense holds them to 7 points in the second half, which I think was a superb job on the defensive side of the ball. So overall, I think although some people don't understand it, I think it was a great scheme to come out and stand whole serve in the first half, really become less conservative in the second half, and really go after them because they couldn't make these adjustments to even on the fly to cover our wide receivers on the deep ball or even running the ball as well in the second half. We did a good job. So I think overall it was a great victory for the Crimson Tide. Now the state of Alabama is red, crimson, and white for the whole year now for 365 days. We get to claim the victory over the Auburn Tigers. But the season is not done. And although this game sometimes in the season, and we used to look forward to bowl game, now you look forward to an SEC championship game, which we'll talk about in our final segment. Then seeding for the national playoffs, the college football playoffs that come up. So there's more games to play, and Alabama gets to now concentrate and focus on Georgia Bulldogs coming up in our next game. But overall, a good game for Alabama. Win this victory 52-21 over the Auburn Tigers.
You have been listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is brought to you each time this week by RollTideBama.com and FreelancePitchers.com.
Well, in our second segment here, we're going to focus on our offensive and defensive standouts of the Auburn game. And I think in this game there were several on offense that I want to highlight. And the first player has to be Tua Tagovailoa. I think he did a great job. I've already stated in the first segment, probably the best playing by an Alabama quarterback in an Alabama-Auburn game. I think his statistics bear that out in this game. He opened up in the second half, was able to throw the ball deep. On that touchdown to Jerry Jeudy, I believe he could put that in a coffee can. The window was so tight where he put that ball in Jerry Jeudy's arms. The pass to Josh Jacobs, another superb pass. Davante Smith pass, another superb pass. And the pass to Henry Ruggs, just throwing it in there so Henry could make a play on the ball. Another great touchdown. I think he's responsible for 6 touchdowns in this game. I find it great that he's able to do that. He passed for 47 touchdowns. He passed Jalen Hurts in this game. And then later when Jalen Hurts came in the fourth quarter and threw the touchdown pass to Jalen Waddle, Jalen comes back and ties him. So they're tied with 47 touchdowns responsible for in their career at the University of Alabama. So 2 great talents, but Tua did a great job. He is one of my offensive standouts for this game. The 3 other offensive standouts in this game that you got to talk about, the next 3 I give them as one unit, and that's our wide receivers in Jerry Jeudy, Davante Smith, and Henry Ruggs. They did such a superb job in this game working with Tua on downfield throws and then run after the catch and Judy and Devontae. And then Henry Ruggs just going up in the end zone and fighting for that ball, making a miraculous catch, one-handed, bringing the ball in. Did such a great job. I just can't say how great a weapons Tua has surrounding him, and Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, and Henry Ruggs. And when you throw Jalen Waddle in there, I don't know of a better wide receiving core in the nation, and I would put them up against anybody. It's just you can't just cover one and the others not beat you. There's no way to go into a game saying you're going to game plan to stop one of these wide receivers, because if you go in saying you're going to stop Jerry Jeudy, then Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle will take advantage of you. So there's no way to do that. I think that's one reason that this offense is so prolific this year in scoring and getting some good passing game, is because we got so many wide receivers that can catch the ball and do a good job. You throw Irv Smith in there as a tight end to complement these four wide receivers. It just makes for a great receiving core. Now, so Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, and Henry Ruggs are other outstanding standouts of this game. The fourth person I want to throw in there is Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs showed up in this game and really, really showed out how versatile he is. He's the type of running back I think can make it on Sunday in the NFL. I think he's making himself a lot of money in the way he's playing these final few games. He's really upped his game this time against Auburn. He ran the ball with authority. When he closed in on the run, he didn't run out of bounds. He knocked the Auburn defender another 2 or 3 yards down field by lowering his shoulder. On that pass route, he came across the middle, wasn't worried about getting hit, comes right down the seam, adjusts twice on the ball while it was in midair, and then catches it for a touchdown and eludes the defenders getting in the end zone after catching the ball. So, just in my mind, Josh Jacobs is up to his game. So my standouts on offense for this Auburn game are Tua, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs III, and Josh Jacobs. Now on defense, I think our defense played a great game. I really believe this is one of the times the only time this year where Quinion Williams is not one of my standouts, but I think Auburn had a game plan for that. They double-teamed Quinion Williams in this game for most part. And so that gave some other people opportunities to run free and make some tackles. I think Dylan Moses, as a linebacker, took advantage of that in this game. I saw Dylan Moses flying all over the field, plugging the holes, being able to come free on and catch the backs in the backfield and catch the receivers on the screen passes, the backs on the screen passes. Because the offensive linemen were so worried about Quinion Williams and trying to block him and putting 2 on him at a time, then I think it freed up Dylan Moses. So one of my standout players on defense in this game is Dylan Moses. The other standout player on defense is Anthony Jennings. Anthony Jennings maintained the edge as an edge rusher. He did a good job getting to the quarterback, affecting the quarterback, sacking the quarterback. Did a good job playing the run when Auburn tried to run wide in those jet sweeps, try to throw out those passes. He was there to bat the ball down on several occasions. He was there to tackle the back on the screen pass on several occasions. So I think one of my other standouts on defense was Anthony Jennings. And the third standout on defense was Shyheim Carter. I think Shyheim Carter showed in this game that he was versatile. He was able to cover, do a good job in coverage. He was able to do a blitz and affect the quarterback. And he was able to get out wide on several occasions and stop the Auburn perimeter game, either in running the ball or those wide screen passes and jet sweeps to their wide out. So I think Shyheim Carter played a great game as well. So on defense, my standout players of the Alabama-Auburn game are Dylan Moses, Shyheim Carter, and Anthony Jennings. Well, Lance, in our third and final segment, we get to look forward to an SEC championship game. We've known about it for a couple of weeks now, but we had to get this Iron Bowl behind us before we can concentrate on it and look for that rematch against Georgia. It's a rematch of last year's national championship game where Alabama won the last seconds in overtime. Georgia now comes into this game. They have one loss, ranked in the top 5. I think they could move up to the top 4 when the rankings come out Tuesday. And you have an opportunity to play Alabama for the SEC championship. Alabama undefeated, beat everybody on the schedule, done so well. Come in, these two teams match up well to play each other. We got Kirby Smart on one side of the ball, Nick Saban on the other side. And both of them know each other well, and both of them will be prepared for this game. Both of them have their team prepared in this game. I think what's going to come down to, there's some advantages, of course, that Georgia has, and some advantages, of course, that Alabama has. I think first off the top, we have to give Georgia the advantage on special teams. Rodrigo Blankenship is probably one of the best kickers in the SEC. If it comes down to a late field goal, I think if Alabama has to make one or Georgia has to make one, Georgia has the upper hand in the special teams by being able to make the field goal and making their make their field goals and make their extra points. So if it's a close game, I give the edge to Georgia in the special teams. I think on defensive side of the ball, I know Kirby Smart is a defensive coach and he's got his team playing well. But I think this year I have to give the edge to Alabama on the defensive side of the ball. I think overall Alabama has put together a year where we weren't talking about the defense much early in the year, and we talked so much about the offense, but I don't think that was because the defense was bad. I think it was because the offense was so good. And I really believe that our offense has helped out our defense in these games by being able our defense to play just a little more aggressive because they know our offensive score when they do have breakdowns. And we have had several breakdowns, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them have a breakdown in this game like we did in the national championship game, like we did in the game against Auburn, where Georgia might gash us for a long run, or they might hit us for a deep pass and we give up a touchdown. So I'm not saying our defense would be it's perfect, but I do say they have the advantage in this game. And then if you go to the offensive side of the ball, Georgia has a great running game, but I think Alabama is built to stop the run. So I have to give the defense side of the edge to Alabama. I believe much like the LSU game, Georgia can run the ball and loves to run the ball first to set up the pass. So I think Alabama comes in with a game plan to stop the run. Isaiah Holyfield and DeAndre Swift are two great running backs. You know, they had two great running backs last year as well in Michelle and Chubb. Alabama still, I don't think care who the running backs are. I think Alabama has a plan for the running game to come in and be able to stop the run and put it on Jake Fromm to pass. Now, different from LSU, Jake Fromm is a great quarterback, and Justin Fields, when he comes in, is also a good quarterback. He's a great change of pace guy. So I look for on offense, Alabama defense to be able to pressure them in the run game to maybe more toward the pass. And as Georgia starts to pass, we're going to have to get pressure on Jake Fromm before he passes the ball to try to get him sacked, put pressure on the quarterback to affect his throw. So I give our defensive players the edge on defense. So I think Alabama has the edge on offense and defense. I think Georgia has the edge on special teams. On coaching, I give the edge to Nick Saban. I have to give the edge to Nick Saban because none of his assistants have ever beat him. None of his former assistants who are now head coaches of other schools have ever beat him in a game. Now, Kirby Smart could be the first to do that. But in this game, I give the edge to Nick Saban because no one's beat him yet. Plus, I think he has a way to game plan for games and scheme for games like this that will be able to just show his talent on the coaching side of the ball, especially on the defensive side of the ball. The intangibles. I think there's several intangibles in this. I believe Georgia has the revenge factor. They feel like they should have won the national championship last year. They feel like that they should have won that game, that Alabama should have never won the game. They feel like they beat Alabama, but just got beat in overtime by a great throw. So I think they have that revenge factor. They want to come back in and they want to play. We're playing in the Georgia Dome. They're in their neck of the woods where they feel comfortable playing. So I think some of the intangibles kind of favor Georgia in this. But I think Alabama has some intangibles as well. If you look at Tua and his play, I think this is a game where he really has an opportunity to shine against some upper-level talent in the SEC. And I believe Tua rises to the occasions for any game, and I don't think any game is too big for him. So I think this moment is an opportunity for Tua to have that moment, have that Heisman moment, if you will, which I believe the whole Auburn game was his Heisman moment. He played so well. His whole season has been his Heisman moment. So I don't fall into that category of the critics out there who say looking for a Heisman moment. But I think in this game, on the national stage, one of the few football games we played that day, playing against going up against Georgia, who We defeated the national championship, again, giving them a chance to come back and play us again. I think Tua is an intangible on our side that gives us an opportunity to win this game. So I look for Alabama to come out early and try to establish the run on offense. I look for them to come out early and try to stop the run on defense to put Georgia into a passing situation. I look for Tua to be able to hit some downfield passes. I look for him to have a big game. I look for the wide receivers to have a big game. I look for Josh Jacobs, Damian Harris to have big games. And I look for Irv Smith to have a big game. You know, the wild card here in this game on defense is, will Terrell Lewis be able to come back and play in this Georgia game? He got hurt over the offseason in July. He had knee surgery. He's been rehabbing. I wouldn't be so sure that he couldn't come back and play in this game. I watched at the beginning of the Auburn game, and he raced out of the tunnel, raced all the way to the sideline. Looked like he was running good, cutting good. I think it was just his way of saying, hey, I'm back. I saw a tweet that he made yesterday saying, hey, with a picture of him holding his hands up after he had sacked Jake Fromm in the national championship game. Hey, should I pick up where I left off, ... is what he said. I think he's hinting that he could be back for this game. If he comes back for this game and is able to get 6 to 10 plays in where he rushes the quarterback, and that's his job, to rush the quarterback, I think Alabama's defense could be improved even this game just by his presence, giving them the uplifting going in this game. So I look for Alabama's defense to do well. I look for Alabama's offense to do well. And in the end, I think Alabama wins the SEC championship over the Georgia Bulldogs, 45-24.
You have been listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is brought to you each time this week by RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. Be sure to go online and check us out on DCCapstoneReport.com for future updates.